Okay, hello, new video again about books. Yep, on the book roll. I'll be talking about books that I will never stop recommending because they will always have a special place in my heart. They will always have a special place in my heart purely because I read them probably and I just fell in love with them. That's the truth. So it's basically books that I will never stop recommending because they're in my heart forever and always. So I'm going to start off with my literal favorite book of all time. Favorite book of all time is The Secret History. This bitch had me throwing it against the wall. I was screaming and crying. Like it was just so good. This thick, and the writing tiny, absolutely tiny. It was worth it. And the one quote that I literally will remember for the rest of my life is, "Death is the mother of beauty, and whatever we call beautiful, we quiver before it." I can't. You cannot tell me that is just like, it's art. Another quote is, "I am nothing in my soul if not obsessive." It speaks to my Scorpio Venus. I needed that. Like, I love it. Like, I love it. The hyperfixations speak to me. So, The Secret History, I would recommend this just because it is a classic for a reason. And it is just a piece of literature that everyone should read. I wish we did this instead of Women in Black. Cool. And the Women in Black is literally an Australian novel about white women working out goods. Like a Maya or like a David Jones. It was nothing to analyze about that. I'm sorry. I wish we did this instead. But it's thick, but it's worth it. It is so good. So basically, university, and this kid joins like a really like, kind of like an elitist club that they learn Greek, Latin, like a whole bunch of like philosophy and everything. These kids, they become really obsessed with like the afterlife and stuff. And they go through a series of events and they set themselves up for shit, really. Basically, that's it. They're insane. They're horrible people, but for some reason you're just like, you want to know why and how and why they like this. It is the ultimate dark academia book, okay? It is the ultimate dark academia book. Like, Donna Tartt slayed with this, but it is really good. I could not recommend this more to people who are like, I guess, more medium to advanced readers, because it took me a while to read this. But then once I got in it, finished it. I don't even know what else I can say about it. It was just, to be fair, I think I did disassociate from majority of this book, and that is the truth. Gosh, I think at times what I like to do to circle specific words that I've never read before, and like I don't really know. So like here, I've got deference, and then I write in it and I say what it means, and it just means respect, and then I write that word and the meaning in my notes app. Then it's always there for me. I learned that off of Dakota on TikTok. She's also an Australian author. I think she's writing her own novel and she's really cool and I love her, and she reminds me of one of the characters in the book. So that is my favorite book of all time. I want to reread it, but I don't want to go through that whole process again of reading everything bit by bit, but I would do it because like, it's a good book. That was my #1 favorite book. Now whatever I bring up is not in order. It is not in order, and it's just like it's simply just a it's just whatever. It's whatever order, okay? Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book, I can't. It has something in my heart, I think, because of the beach. Does that make sense? Like, it has to make sense because like, it's the beach. Here, the two of them are forever tied to each other, twisting and turning both in unison and opposition, a double helix, each necessary to the other's survival. I don't know, that probably means nothing to you guys, but like, to me, it was just such a good book, and you feel so much sympathy for the main character, Nina River, and she basically just had to kind of raise her siblings, and she just goes through so much life struggles, and it's just like, it's really beautiful to read because you get a whole load of different perspectives. You just like, it's a beautiful piece. I love it. Plus I think the aesthetics of it all too. It's also from the universe, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six. I read this first. I read this one and then Daisy Jones. You can read them standalone, so it's fine. I liked this more than I liked Daisy Jones. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I don't know, I liked this one the best. It just a special place in my heart. Like, it is the ultimate summer book. I plan on rereading this in the summer because why wouldn't I? Because it's set in summer. and like just shit goes down in it. You go through the night with the characters from all different perspectives, and you see shit go down and you're like, what the hell, what, and it's so good. I think I read it, I reckon I read it in the day, because like I wouldn't be surprised if I did. But that is Malibu Rising. I recommend this to anyone who's starting to read, because it's a good standalone. It's not an easy read, but it captures you, but it's not a Wattpad type of writing. It's like more an advanced, beginner, medium, advanced writing. I loved it. Now, another book that I read quite literally in a day, in a freaking day. I think I had a day off. It was storming and you saw it. It was storming and raining outside, and I started it, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This book, I can't, like, I can't. To me, it was just the writing, the storyline. Like, I've heard lots of people did not like it. Some people didn't like the character. That makes sense. Addie was a little bit annoying sometimes. People just didn't like the storyline of it and like the plot twists and stuff. To me, it was really good, well written. I kid you not, I read this in a day. What I like to do, because the cover's blue, I like to get blue sticky tabs, like tabs, I guess, according to the book. For Malibu Rising, I use pink and purple and sometimes blue, because I like coordinating that. Okay, he is the only constant in her life, the only one who'll always remember. Like a war with no winners. Basically, is this girl in like the 1700s, 1714, and she makes a deal basically with the devil. That's like, I want to be remembered. No, I don't know what the deal was. Hang on. A bargain to live forever, but be remembered by none. Obviously, that's the whole spiel of the title, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So she's invisible, kind of. And she's not invisible, obviously, she doesn't have superpowers, but people forget her, and that is the whole basic thing of the book. And it is just, I think it's just so peculiar. It's like, how, like, I love it. She meets a character, and then like something else happens, because like, but she basically is just like, she goes through lots of shit, but living her life 300 years to the present day, and no one has remembered her. And it's just like, how can you live like that? And I think it also gets your mind kicking in, and you're like, would you do that, something like that? Would you literally sell your soul to live forever but never be remembered? Because you can't make relationships, you can't buy a house, you can't have a job. Like, how do you live? And I think you don't live, I guess. And the villain, he was kind of cute, not gonna lie, but you're not supposed to like him, because that's the whole point. Like, he kind of did this to her, but I can't help but like him, because he's kind of like a little bit attractive. But as someone who loves art and like painting and stuff, they include lots of references to art. And like at one point it was like the whole painting was this girl who's never been seen before, and she's just kind of gone missing, and it was Addie. And it's just like, God, the little details. It was so good. Like, even now thinking about it, I get giddy, and that doesn't happen much. Okay, now the next book. This was a book I read when I think in lockdown. It may have been in lockdown. Lots of like coming to terms with who you are, self-expression, self-identity, and it just helped me so much. And I loved it because it hit something within my soul that I think will always be there, and that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. And it's such a good coming of age book. And I think coming to terms with sexuality, and then like just facing like general teenage struggles that weren't glorified, or like they were just communicated really, really well in this book. Like, so Aristotle is the main character, and he struggles with a lot of family issues, like his dad being like mentally and like, I guess, emotionally absent from his life, and then finding a friend who for the first time he really connected with, and then he was in a really dark place. And I think a lot of people can relate to this book. Like, if I read I love Goodreads. I'm going back to my Goodreads every single time. So I gave it 5 stars. I think I said it has a very like poetic and lyrical writing style. It does, and it touches something in you, because the way that the author has written this is just so specific, and it's so heart-wrenching. It is, and I love it. I don't know, I love it. Call me crazy, but I love it. I love this book. It is, I could not recommend this enough, because especially to a lot of teenagers, to me it emphasizes on the fact that it's a coming of age story, especially because it's a coming of age story from a person who isn't white, and then like coming to terms with their own race, and then like loss of culture and stuff like that. I don't know, I loved it. I loved it. So that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. There was a second book. I haven't read it yet because I like standalones, and I don't really find second books necessary, because I feel like an author is very, very talented when they can write one book and do everything in that one book and don't need a second book. I don't know, that's my thing. That's my own thing. I don't plan on reading the second because I like the way this ended. I like the way this ended, and I don't want to ruin it if I read the next book. I don't think it will ruin it, but I like what I have in here. So a couple of my favorite quotes from Aristotle and Dante. The summer sun was not meant for boys like me. Boys like me belong to the rain. Another one was, I bet you could sometimes find all the mysteries of the universe in someone's hand. To me, that is just this, it's the sweetest thing. It is the sweetest thing. So that's Aristotle and Dante. Now is another one, possibly one of my favorite books. Obviously we all have seen Song of Achilles. I read Song of Achilles in 2019. Yeah, I know, I was the OG. I read Song of Achilles because I love mythology. I said that in my last video. I was a girl of mythology. I still am. Still am. This is Circe by Madeline Miller. This book was truly something else. It wasn't even as sad as the Song of Achilles. This book to me focused more on a development of the character and coming to terms of being alone, figuring out stuff by yourself, and just self-identity in general. So Circe was banished to her own island, and she basically has to fend for herself. She literally has to fend for herself. She lives by herself, and she connects with the nature that's around her, I guess. And she starts practicing like witchcraft, I guess. There are like many sailors and men that come to her island because like they think it's just like an abandoned island, and then she's there and, you know, and like a lot of bad things happen, but because she's a powerful girly pop, she survives and she overcomes it. And I think to me Circe was just a book about development within yourself. I related to this because this is who I want to be. Circe is who I want to be. She is who I want to be when I am 25, 22, 23, 24, 27. She's who I want to be. The storyline is that obviously because she's a god, well, she's goddess, kind of like she's a minor goddess, but I also wouldn't say minor goddess because she's kind of slay. Odysseus, and we all should know Odysseus from Homer, because that's the story of Odysseus. He goes missing from the Trojan War. His wife is back at home waiting for him, and he's here with Circe. So I think we can all get what I'm trying to say. He's unfaithful. He's a bad man. He's a bad man. And at first we're like, oh my god, he is a wonderful man. He loves her. And then you're like, oh, okay, you're terrible. You're horrible. I could not recommend this enough. I would also say this is much like The Secret History with the writing. It's a very specific type of writing style. And it's, to me, how I would describe it is literally like, it's honey. To me, it's honey. Like it just kind of like, it's smooth and it glides when you speak, and it just makes sense. It makes so much sense. But let's see one of my favorite pages. In a solitary life, there are rare moments when another soul dips near yours. As stars once a year brush the earth, such a constellation was he to me. You cannot tell me that's not poetry. This one. He showed me his scars, and in return he let me pretend that I had none. Madeline Miller. Another one. I would say some people are like constellations that only touch the earth for a season. Another one, because I literally love Circe. You are wise, he said. If it is so, I said, it is only because I have been fool enough for 100 lifetimes. Yep. No, for real, like for real. Like that makes sense, babe. I think the common theme with these is that Circe, much like Addie, kind of lives they both live forever, I guess. A quote from Invisible Life of Addie LaRue that I'm just going to mention because it kind of ties with what I just said. It is sad, of course, to forget, but it is a lonely thing to be forgotten, to remember when no one else does. Like, that is just, it's pure art to me. Another thing that ties this book and V.E. Shrub's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, this was a quote from Invisible Life. Stories are a way to preserve oneself, to be remembered and to forget. So I think that's it for Circe. I recommend it. I could not recommend it enough because of how poetic like the writing is, and just I would recommend this to every woman. Not joking. Another book that I could not recommend enough because to me, Japanese literature, the holy grail. The holy grail. This shit, you're gonna tell me that's not the best thing ever. This is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Before the Coffee Gets Cold. How do I start? It is literally this thin. It's easy read. Not an easy read unless like the writing's bad. I read it in one night because I was that hooked. It's the, like, everyone knows it because it was on TikTok, and I literally will only trust Japanese literature. I'm sorry, but I do. I love it. It's something about it. But let's go to my Goodreads and see what I wrote for my review. 5 stars again. Is about a little cafe in Tokyo, and there's like, it's like an urban legend that if you sit down in a specific seat at a specific time of the day, you can travel back in time. But there are specific rules to this, and it's that you can't move from the spot. What you do in the past won't change the future. You have to drink the coffee before it gets cold. Otherwise, you have to stay in that chair, in that spot for the rest of your life. There's another rule. There's another rule. There's another rule. Okay, I think that covered everything that I said. But it's 5, I think it's 5 different short stories. Yes. No, 4. There's 4. So there's the lovers, husband and wife, the sisters, and mother and child. From the second I read it, it was just, okay, this was just like a little, like a short little paragraph. If I return to the past, I might be able to set things right. I might be able to have a conversation with Goro once more. She replayed this fanciful wish over and over in her mind. She became obsessed and lost ability to make level-headed judgment. And I literally wrote, me too. Me too. That's me in every scenario. Okay, this was another rule. The only people you can meet in the past are those who have visited the cafe. I think, to me, like when it says there's nothing you can do while in the past, that will change the present. And it's just like, there's a theory that's like, if you go back in time, you quite literally cannot change the future because it's inevitable, and that the universe kind of will find a way for it to happen. So like, if you went in the past and you delayed your parents' meeting, they will meet again, but years later. So like, it will kind of delay the timeline, if that makes sense. And it's a cool theory. I love it. The most impactful story to me there was The Mother and Child. Like this quote, "Bringing you into the world was the only thing that I did for you. Can you forgive me for that?" Oh, this was sad. I am really glad for the life you gave me. There's a quote here. "At the end of the day, whether one returns to the past or travels to the future, the present does not change. So it raises the question, just what is the point of that chair?" And I think that's what we as the readers and the audience have to realize. It's like, what is the point of this chair? Like, are people just getting closure? Like, is it just therapy for them? Is it a way of figuring out things for themselves? And it was so good. I know people didn't like it because of the way it was written. I loved it. I loved it, and I will say that I loved it. Nothing can change that for me. And it was impactful. I loved it. I loved it. And the writing was really good. The characters. This book, I will never stop recommending this because it was an easy read, the way that you kind of were entranced with it within like the first chapter. And it's short. It's so short and it's good. You can read it within seconds. No, that's a lie. Not within seconds, sorry. But I would recommend this to a lot of people. And I recommend you to read this. Same way I recommend you all to read these books. Like, they are art. They are poetry. They're amazing. I love them. And I hope to find good books later down the years. That is really it. That is all I've needed to talk about. And I've covered seven books. That is a lot, and it's going to be a long video, I feel like. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed me talking about books that I love. I hope you enjoy. I had a fun time filming it. It was so much fun. I'm in the mood to read now. I'm in the mood to read. I'm really in the mood to read. Peace out, Girl Scouts. I love you so much. Thank you for watching.